morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Chattering with Nicholas Events. And this evening I'm chattering with Derek McEwan, otherwise known as Scottish Geeks. Say hi, Derek.
Hello there.
Thanks for joining me, sir. Just going to do my usual thing of just promoting a few things before we start, and actually doing a big reveal as well. Just wanted to say that Paddy Murphy is going to be joining me next week, and then Anna and Mike from Myco Entertainment, who produced and Mike wrote and directed Hollower, in which I star. I'm going to be chatting to them next week about the kind of universe that they've created of horror movies. So I'm going to be talking to them in a couple of weeks' time. Weekend after that is Easter, so there's no show at Easter. If I can get a pre-recorded show sorted out, I will do, but there won't be a live broadcast then. And that's right, I've just realized I need to do something to, yes, that's right, I'm just being informed I'm going out for dinner with somebody later. Also very confusing. Incidentally, I have to say, Craig is working downstairs, and I can prove that he's working downstairs because I'm holding his knitting hostage. Craig is go online and watch. You can see the hats that Craig has been knitting for me. He's got great hats.
I did see one of the ones on Facebook. It was actually quite nice.
It is very nice. It's a lovely, nice, warm red one, and bright red, which means I'm going to have, and he's knitted me another one since then as well. Yeah, Craig is working downstairs. Just wanted to remind everybody to please subscribe to Chattering with Nicholas Events and to Scottish Geeks, where Derek does game playthroughs and so on, and I'll obviously be exploring that in a few moments. The other thing is a big reveal. Now, I want to see if I can do this. So what I want to do now is I want to share my screen, and I'm going to start a screen share. So present to everyone. So I don't know how well you can see this, but this is the poster for The Night Whispered, which has been done by a gentleman called John Lynch. And so I'll be putting that up online on Facebook and so on in the next couple of days. But this is a very quick preview as to what it is. That's me with Katie Bonham, who wrote and directed Mindless, which premiered at the Glasgow Fright Fest. And that's me with Matt Camlin, director of photography or cinematographer. He was also the cinematographer on Mindless as well. And that's probably around about 2 o'clock in the morning. Trust me, as you've heard me said, it was really cold that night. Here is Laura Hopwood, who plays Rachel in the movie.
Now, is that one of Craig's hats?
It's not. Now, this was before Craig took up. It's a good question. This is before he took up knitting, and on the left there is Dawson, and who helped me out last week on the show, and this is Holly Boyden, who plays Rachel. Dawson plays Ed, and we're all staring intently at the script. So that is that. I'm going to stop sharing that. So just a few of the images from behind the scenes. If you go to my website, you can find more images and the blog. That's nicholasevents.com with more about the creating. And there is another blog due at the moment. I'm just working on how to use previs rather than storyboards when you're doing stuff. So just wanted to share that with everyone. I'm very pleased with the poster done by John Lynch. John Lynch has also done a poster for a short film called Retribution, which Paddy Murphy directed, and Paddy will be joining us next week, and I'll show you the poster for Retribution if you haven't seen it already. And we've already getting questions coming in, which I will we'll come to in a few moments. Okay, so Derek, we're here to talk about horror games. How did you first get into horror gaming, or how long have you been gaming? Have you always been a gamer?
I have been gaming since 1984, when I got my Spectrum 48K. I was about 5 years old. So I've been gaming for a while. I've been playing video games for a very long time, pretty much non-stop. But the horror gaming scene really only kind of started a few years back. It's a relatively new sort of idea. I mean, people had tried it before, but nobody really knew what to do with it until, the technology had gotten to a stage where you could actually fill the shoes of the characters. And for the likes of games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill, they were what you call the granddaddy of the horror game, where it was just like action-packed and things like that. But recent horror games are more sort of what would really happen. You have absolutely no chance against the majority of the monsters out there, so your only option is to run. And that's what I like about it, But it puts you in that sort of situation, and it just hooked me straight away.
Oh, okay, so that's very interesting. But I just want to rewind about the Spectrum. Now, is that the really wee small box that you had to plug a tape recorder in, a cassette recorder into the program? I remember my mates. Sorry, this is for us old folks talking here. So many of the audience will just go, "What? What you mean you used to have to use a little tape cassette to program your computer?"
A lot of them don't even know what a cassette is. Trust me.
I know.
It's bizarre. They will never know the joy of having to stick a pencil in to rewind the tape to get the tape back into the actual cassette case.
Oh, well, yeah, and swinging it. Some people will know what I'm doing here who are old enough to remember putting it. Yeah, I'm actually rewinding a tape cassette when I'm doing this. To save battery on your Walkman, the thing you had before MP3 players. Anyway, sorry, enough of the nostalgia and so. So you started ZX Spectrum. Okay, and so horror, and funnily enough, you've mentioned this. Oh, I should have warned people that it is entirely probable we're going to have spoilers for some of the games that we mentioned today. So just be aware there will probably be spoilers. Okay, so you mentioned two, funnily enough, which are at the bottom of your list of 10 that you gave me, which was Silent Hill and Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Are those the first ones? They're not the first ones.
Not the first, but they were the ones that started getting people interested. They were likely ones beforehand, but they've been completely lost to obscurity now.
Right.
It's like people will occasionally mention, I don't know what they are, but there are people who occasionally said, yeah, but blah 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 came out first, and like, never heard of it. Sorry, But Resident Evil is the one that people come back to. I mean, there's been like movies recently as well with Mila Jovovich and things. It's bizarre. It's kind of came full circles, like horror movies, horror books, horror movies, horror games, back to horror movies again, and now they're writing novelizations of the games as well.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I think I've got a thing on my list of articles to read about somebody, an author, talking about the fact of novelizing games. Okay, so I was going to mention the movies. I think are Silent Hill and Resident Evil. They're certainly the ones that I've heard of, and I enjoyed the Silent Hill movies. I've kind of watched Resident Evil movies. I think, kind of probably from about halfway through when I happened to switch on the channel. Are those the ones that have become the biggest franchises as far as movies are concerned, or are there others? Well,
there are movies sort of like they're always in development hell at the moment. It's like people want to make them, but they'd be impossible to make kind of thing. But with the Resident Evil franchise, it was easy enough because they completely scrapped the entire story and made something new. Silent Hill had its own sort of thing where each game had its own complete self-contained story, which the movies borrowed from.
Right.
That kind of thing. But I mean, it shows you to the sort of extent that horror games are becoming, just an entire part of the genre. That people are actually taking what they like from the games and putting it into movies, not realizing that the games did the same with movies beforehand. If you know what I mean. So everything's just sort of coming into a sort of a circle.
Right. And you put those down at the bottom of your list of 10. Is that just because they're so old now, and have things moved on considerably?
It's because I put them at the bottom because it's the ones that anyone who's ever played horror games will instantly know and know everything about. So, it's like if I talk about them, I'll instantly get something wrong.
Right.
It's like you can't say anything right about something that everyone else knows everything about. It's bizarre.
Right. Okay. So, and how does the technology stand up? I was watching some of the video. Are they still producing Silent Hill videos now, or are they?
The Silent Hill games, well, there was meant to be one coming out where they did a trailer, a playable teaser, they called it. And it was Silent Hill PT, and it was meant to be Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead playing the main character. and they cancelled it.
Really?
He was very disappointed, apparently.
I'm sure.
I think it was Gelnor. I can never see his name. Begins with a G. Spanish director.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yes, that's the one. He was directing the game.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I mean, there are massive studios and massive directors and actors all getting into the video game scene now because they see it as an art form rather than it's just some kid playing in their basement.
Right. Right.
So that's where we're at just now. As it's went from spotty teen sitting in their basement playing a game in the dark to it's everyone plays now. It's almost everyone. It's became a valid media format for storytelling, and it's just a way to get stories into people who wouldn't normally go out to a movie or read a book.
Interesting. Okay, so and funny enough, we were talking earlier on before the show started that basically the what makes them special is obviously these are aimed at solo players rather than groups of people. Is that right, or are there any kind of online monster horror games that people?
The online ones don't tend to work as well because the solo game is to give you that sense of that sense of solitary fear. If you're walking down through the woods at night by yourself and you hear a noise, you turn around, you've got your friends with you, it's not as bad,
Right.
And I've tried to play horror games with my friends and we end up laughing through the entire thing. So it's very difficult to do a multiplayer horror in a scary way because people tend to laugh more in a group than they would when they're by themselves. So it's that sense of isolation really that also lends itself to the fear.
Right. Now, it's interesting because you in preparation for this, you did encourage me to have a look at some games, and you gave me one which was basically a maze. You're in some sort of labyrinth, and the thing is, it's not the same for any player because it constantly redraws it. You've got certain corridors and so on. And I have to admit, I did play it for 5 minutes, and then I got too scared. It's just like
I know what you mean.
I'm gonna do this. I just can't do this.
I'm guessing you didn't even meet the mole people.
I didn't know there were mole people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I didn't get as far as that. It was just like it's that thing of, and I noticed this on a couple of the games. Is basically you're encouraged to turn the darkness, the brightness down,
to
make sure that it is actually really quite a dark playing experience. So you can't. So it is really that, and a lot of the time you're either just walking through dark places holding a torchlight, or you're viewing things through a camera. So things are obscured to help.
They basically try to make it so that it would be truer to life. You wouldn't have super bright eyes all of a sudden when you're walking down a dark tunnel. Everything would be dark, dingy. You wouldn't know where you were going. There would be noises you didn't know where they were coming from, especially in the game that you were playing. Like some things echo and you hear whispers that aren't really there. And the reason they put the game changing into it was because if you don't know where you are, this is meant to be your first time going into the place, so you're going to get lost all the time. And as your paranoia builds, you forget where you've been.
Right.
See, so everything changes behind you, or did it? Because you don't remember.
This is horrible, just horrible. Okay, I'm gonna take a break before we start talking about layers of fear. And there's a question from Craig. Have you played The Last of Us?
I have not. I cannot afford a PS4, unfortunately. The only system the game is on.
Is it? Right. Yeah, no, I wondered about that. And I think, so we're mostly talking about games which you can download off the net.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're all PC games mostly, yeah.
And have you heard of a new game that has Brett Dalton in it? Brett Dalton was in Teen Wolf, for those who don't know. Oh, no, what am I saying, Teen Wolf? I mean Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I have not heard of a game with him in it, no.
Oh,
that's an interesting one. I'll have to look that one up.
I'll get Craig to Google that and so let us know which game Brett Dalton is in. Question from Paddy Murphy. Hey Derek, are you excited for Outlast 2? Now we've got Outlast at the top of the list, so we're going to come to that later. But are you looking forward to Outlast 2?
If I could afford to build a TARDIS and if they existed in this world, I would already have Outlast 2.
Right.
I'm that excited for it. I've that particular games company brought back joy for me. It was like everything worked in the Outlast series. It was one of those games that just everything was in the correct place at the correct times, and when it finished, you were like, it wasn't like, oh right, I'm finished. It was like, oh my god, I want to play more.
Right. And how long did you spend playing it with Outlast?
Initially, just for my initial playthrough, you have to kind of rush through it because people want to see everything that's happening. And then I played it again for myself. I think in total, I've spent about 40 hours playing Outlast.
Wow. And is that the kind of, what's the sort of average time that you would expect to play a game?
If you're playing for yourself and you want to explore everything, it can vary. It depends on the game's designers, but most games are an hour to between an hour all the way up to 30 to 40 hours. Some games, it could be over 200 hours. There are games that have got so many different things. It can be about 500 to 600 hours. Some games never end.
Right.
But horror games are generally short.
And
because otherwise it would just, you would lose your interest.
Right. And you can only stay scared. And they last 5 minutes. Okay. Okay, so another question from Paddy. Do you see virtual reality like the Oculus Rift or the HTC Vive as a major new avenue for horror gaming?
I would love to try the Vive. It is an awesome looking bit of kit. I mean, it actually has spatial awareness. There's things you put up in the corners of your room so that you don't walk into the wall. You can actually walk around your entire room. The thing I would be having an issue with if you were playing a horror game would be if someone walks into the room and you're trying to chop up a monster, you're going to smack them in the face. But no, it would be awesome. But the issue there is you would literally be in the game. So like when you were playing Vanish, you would be in those tunnels. You would not be able to look away. You'd shut your eyes, open your eyes, try and look left or right, and you'd still be there. You wouldn't be able to look away from the screen. Because the screen is there. You are in the game. It's basically like you used to watch Star Trek, I'm guessing. Yes. Possibly. I always think people do. Do you remember the holodeck things?
Yeah.
I think that's what the new technology, that's what Oculus Rift is like. That's what the Vive is. Or the Vive, or whatever they call it. I haven't quite figured out how to pronounce it yet.
Right. Now, this is interesting because when I was up at Celluloid Screams in Sheffield last year, they had little booths where you go and you put the headsets on and the eye mask thing. And so there is a game, and I think I've got the name of the game right, Night Terrors, which you're going to be able to play just on your iPhone.
I'm so looking forward to that one as well.
Yeah. I've just been asked to vote for it for. I know it started off as an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter campaign, and they've been developing it for a while. And just the idea that you can hold your phone up and walk through your darkened house. And I do find that absolutely fascinating, which kind of gets over the whole totally immersive experience, because otherwise people are just going to hurt themselves, I think.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, that's why I like the idea of the Vive, where it's got that sort of spatial awareness, so you don't bump into things. It will tell you where things are. If you're going to walk into a table, it'll put a line where the table is, just so you know it's there.
Okay, so it's basically it's got a camera on the outside, so it knows to feed in. Okay,
there are cameras on the outside in the room as well that sort of do a feedback to it. So you have a complete 360-degree experience, no matter where you are in that room. You're part of the game.
I don't think I could take it.
It's just one of those things that would take a little while to get used to, but it's something that would certainly be a lot of fun to try.
Right. And just so that people are aware, Brett Dalton is in a game called Until Dawn, but we think this is not an online.
That's it. Again, PS4.
PS4, yeah. Okay, so we talked about this. So I wanted to come on to Layers of Fear. which I've watched some gameplays of and so on. Tell us a little bit about Layers of Fear and why you liked it.
Layers of Fear was something a little bit different than what I'm used to. A lot of horror games are jump scare related, where something just jumps out in a big loud noise, you go, ah, and then you move on. But Layers of Fear had this sort of deep, unnerving story to it. And again, it was the house that you were in changes constantly, but everything had this sort of very artistic quality to it. There was a lot of creepy old paintings everywhere and things like that, but they all sort of changed. It's one of these games that you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. And I loved it because the story was just so enticing to me. And I actually felt genuine fear as I was playing it because I didn't know what the hell was going on. It gave me that sense of dread that comes from the unknown, because every section you went through was different. There was nothing samey about the whole thing. It was not linear, but it was in a way, if you know what I mean. There was a definite start to end, but you did not know what to expect as you were going along.
Ah, interesting. Okay, and I think some of the paintings looked to me as if they were actually either recreations that I had seen before as well. There was a picture of a kind of a wolf boy baby, covered in hair, face covered in hair, wolfman baby type thing. And I thought, I know that image. I've seen that image before. And again, having just watched some of your playthrough, it seems to be a very interesting a concept. So the next one I wanted to ask you about is Slender: The Arrival.
Slender, yes. Slender is the one that made indie horror games a lot more mainstream, the free games. Slender was actually created as part of a contest for a site called Creepypasta, where they had to, they created like a character and things like that. But for some reason, he has become a legend. People believe he's real. There are actually people who worship Slender. The Slender Man and things like that. There was actually quite a bad crime happened. Someone was stabbed to death because they thought Slender had told them to do it. And this was literally about 2 years after the character was created as a joke. And everyone, the guy said, this character is not real. I made him up. And everyone was like, no, he must have come from somewhere. So people started getting all freaked out about it. So someone got the idea of, you know what, this would make a great game. So we're going to stick you in the middle of the woods, because the woods are scary, and you got to find 8 pages that tell you something about Slender. And if you find them all, you're fine. You can go away. But the creature, the Slender Man, is after you all the time. Now, he doesn't run. He doesn't chase you. He just appears. He will be behind you. You'll turn around and he'll be there. And that's when he gets you, kind of thing. So you have to keep moving forward. You can never look back.
Oh, that's really interesting, because I mean, this is, this goes way back to, Tales of Persephone not being able to leave the underworld. Look behind her. I'm actually thinking of, it'll come to me, one of the Greek myths where he can, as long as he doesn't actually look behind him, he can rescue his wife.
That's something about Pillar of Salt, wasn't it?
Well, Pillar of Salt is kind of really showing how bad. A Pillar of Salt, I think is kind of Lot's wife. Lot's wife, who looked on Sodom and Gomorrah when they were being described, but it's even older than that, because it's in the Greek myths and legends, and he used to play a harp, and I can't remember. Orpheus in the underworld. Orpheus in the underworld. His wife is stolen by, Persephone is stolen by Hades, and he can rescue her as long as he doesn't look behind him. So this whole idea of, it's like Don't Blink and from Doctor Who and so on. And it's really creepy, that whole thing of course you're going to want to look behind you.
Yeah, I mean, in the same respect, someone took that legend and changed it into something else. There's a whole site called SCP, which is Serve, Contain, Protect, where it has like different monsters that the government has captured, kind of thing. Someone made a game out of that. Now, this case, with the creature, you can't look away. If you look away, it gets you. So that came out before the Doctor Who Blink thing, and everyone thinks that's where the Weeping Angels came from, because the minute you blink, it snaps your neck.
Right.
Sort of thing. So yeah. So I mean, but the Slender the Arrival was actually one that stemmed from this free game. They decided to make it into a full-fledged game with a full-fledged mythos to it, and I still don't understand what the hell was going on in that game. All I know is I was running for my life constantly from various different creatures, including the Slender Man, and ended up becoming one of the creatures myself, apparently.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's horrible. That's horrible. Paddy Murphy, Craig has just pointed out the name of the lady I'm trying to remember is Eurydice. And Paddy is just saying, speaking of horror games and paintings, the monsters in Silent Hill were influenced by the works of awesome Irish artist Francis Bacon. He is an awesome Irish artist, Francis Bacon. I do like his images. Okay, so you mentioned very briefly indie game creators, and this is where it strikes me that you do seem to have a difference between huge, great Hollywood blockbusters and indie games. Can you tell me a little bit more about this? So, what makes an indie game? How would you identify an indie game?
The basic terminology for the big ones is called AAA gaming. Those games are designed specifically to make money.
Right.
That's it. That is all they're for. They don't care whether you enjoy the game. They just want you to buy it. Independent games, independent designers have to really push to get themselves noticed. So every indie game has that potential to be an amazing title because they put their heart and soul into it.
Right.
I mean, it's like they might not have the best graphics in the world, they might not have the best story, but you can always tell when someone has really, really tried their best to make the best that they can, But with the AAA games, it's like, people really like, we don't know, someone getting their head chopped off. So we're going to make a monster that chops everyone's heads off the end. Will that make us money? Yeah, okay, chuck that one out. Whereas the independent one is like, right, I really need to go and research this. This is going to take me 10 years to make.
It's because it's striking, because when you look at it's like CGI in Hollywood and so on, there seems to be an awful lot of things to do. And whereas I speak to an awful lot of independent filmmakers, and the technology is basically you can do this on your iPhone. You can make films using literally an iPhone or a DSLR, a small, reasonably priced camera and sound kit. But an indie game, it sounds like will take an awful lot of time and programming, particularly as you say, if you've got to be able to provide options and work out what people might do and therefore want to explore.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of indie games are what I term as shovelware, where people use reusable assets. They're free gimmicks, and they try and sell them on. And you can tell when someone hasn't made the effort and they're just trying to make a quick buck. And I will always be honest in my channel. If I don't like a game, I'm like, no, sorry, no, don't like it. Moving on.
Right.
But you can always tell the ones who have really tried, even if they do use the free assets, because they try and do the best they can with them. And they might not be able to afford voice actors or a good script or anything like that. But I mean, that's one of the other things I like about the indie game market is some of these games, they have no story to them, but they give you enough of a push to be able to make the story up yourself, And that's where a lot of the mythos for a lot of these games come about. And then when they bring out the sequels, they continue on from the stories that other people have created for the game.
Interesting. So there's a feedback loop, in other words, from the fans of the game can influence the way it goes. Okay, all right. So that sounds really interesting, and I really want to know more about Slender. That does look really, really interesting. The next one on your list was The Park. The
Park was an interesting one. It came out of nowhere. It's from a world, literally an online world that has been created called the Secret World. It's all to do with the Illuminati and everything like that.
Right.
And there's all these different sort of stories and Cthulhu, demons and everything like that. Everything that could happen in your imagination will happen in the Secret World. So the park came out as a standalone game for, to introduce people to the Secret World. But in and of itself was a very, very interesting game. And one of the only games that I played last year where I spent about 5 or 10 minutes after with my mouth open going, what? I didn't know what to say. It was like, how did this? But no, it was one of those things where you just, your brain shuts down because you've just had a complete sort of sensory overload of information. You've played this character all throughout the entire game, only to have the entire thing turned on its head.
Right.
Without spoiling it too much, it's such a twisted ending. It really is, and it's not what you would expect to have happened. The premise is basically, just to give people an idea, the premise is you've lost your son in a theme park, and you're trying to find them. So you think. So.
Okay. All right. That sounds kind of interesting, as if I might want to actually. And is that got a female protagonist?
It does, yes. You're the mother trying to find the child. And you start off angry because he'd left something in the park, and he runs off to go and find it without you while you're talking to the security guard. So that's where the game begins. But then the park itself is haunted. But it's not haunted by ghosts. The entire park itself is alive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That sounds really interesting. I might actually have to try some of these now. You're making them sound more and more interesting, and see if I can.
Seem so damnably intriguing. Yes.
I probably feel, because it's a park, part of it must occur outside rather than down in a dark labyrinth.
The majority of it, apart from the funhouse. Funhouse got me. The roller coaster was worse.
Oh, actually, yeah, no, that actually sounds quite good fun. Oh, actually, except getting me on a roller coaster is unlikely. I'm the person I've probably mentioned here before. Literally, if you show me footage of being on a roller coaster, I will sway in my seat. Completely. It's true. My feedback loop is that I can see it, therefore it's real. It's completely. I know I'm sitting in my room, but. Yes, I've now just triggered my slight vertigo by even talking about it. It's like the room's moving now and it's scary.
That's what I really enjoy about these games, though, is because you've got a computer screen in front of you. You're on a mouse and keyboard, but for some reason in your head, you are that character. Which is why I swear so much in my videos, is because it is something that I would do if I was in that situation. I would swear. If something came up to me and shouted at me, I wouldn't just go, "Ah!" I'm like, I'm gonna punch you.
And most of them are first-person POV.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's a better sort of idea than having it sort of back, because that detracts from it. You're in control of another person, whereas if it's in the first-person view, you are the person. You are the character in the book. You are the hero of the story, or the villain in some cases.
Right. Incidentally, I've just realized we've skipped Five Nights at Freddy's. Tell me a little bit about Five Nights at Freddy's. Five
Nights at Freddy's. It seems like it came out years ago, and it didn't. It was last year it started. It was a very innovative game. It was something that had never been done before when the first one came out, and it was terrifying to begin with.
Right.
The thought of you are an office worker, you're a security guard working in a pizzeria. There's some animatronics, and they've got a little inbuilt program that allows them to wander about so the joints don't seize up until the next day. Unfortunately, they also have added programming which makes them think that you are an endoskeleton out of its suit. So they're not actually out to kill you. They just think you are another robot that needs to be stuffed into one of the mechanical suits. And unfortunately, the mechanical suit is filled with wires and crossbeams and stuff. So literally the only thing that would be left of you after they put it on would be your eyes and teeth. So you've got to try and survive the entire night, making sure nobody breaks in, keeping your eye on cameras all throughout the place, shutting doors, making sure you don't run out of power, or the animatronics are going to come in, find you, and do what they were built to do. There's no evil in the game. They are just doing their job.
Right.
And you're doing your job. You're just trying not to die while you're doing it.
Right.
And the jump scares are, I mean, these are big, like, cuddly, fluffy mascot animals, and they're terrifying because of that. There's something so bad about, like, I don't know if you've ever been to, like, a theme park where they've had, like, you know, the animatronic things, they just sort of move kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then imagine one of them just coming up to you and going like that, and then just grabbing you by the shoulder. It's just something so. It's sort of the idea of you know, it's like mannequins. Mannequins are another thing. You know, it's like things that should not move, moving.
Yeah,
that kind of idea. And but the issue with Five Nights at Freddy's was he made so much money on it that he decided to bring out another one, and another one, and another one, and now he's got something called Five Nights at Freddy's World, which is a cute little game where you walk around and try and save teddy bears. So it kind of went completely off the horror thing. But by the time of the fourth one, I was so angry at the game that I was so sarcastic, people stopped watching me. They were like, "No, we want to see fear," and I'm sitting there going, "Oh, good, another one." And actually, the last episode I ever did of a Five Nights at Freddy's game, I bet everyone that I could play it with my eyes shut, and I managed it. I completed an entire night without looking.
Yeah, that sounds as if it might be a little bit predictable in that case.
It does, because it's all based on sound. You hear something, you react to it, and you're done.
Right.
But like I said, initially it was very innovative. It was something that had never been seen before, and now there's so many copycat games out there that it's saturated the market. Hence why it's very difficult to find a good horror game this time of year, because they're all exactly the same game with different versions of it. So, you know.
Yeah, it's just the same in publishing and so on. Is like, you know, why you have 50 Shades of Grey mark 20,000. Yeah, it's everything. Yeah, this is making money. Yes, absolutely. People jump on the bandwagon. There's a comment from Paddy Murphy. Have you played Jasper Burns? That's spelled Byrnes. Jasper Burns, Lone Survivor.
I have played Lone Survivor. I don't have it on my channel, though. I got a little bit of a problem with a copyright section on it, because when I played it, he had some copyrighted music in the game and forgot to take it out. But now he's taken it out, I might actually go back to it. It's what we call a pixel art game. Basically, everything is as it would have been when, like, I was growing up. You know, it's all pixelated and everything. It's a very, very good story. I've not completed it, though, so I can't really get too much into the details yet.
I mean, Paddy says, you know, it's influenced by films like Jacob's Ladder, and it took Jasper 8 years to make by himself. You were saying that people will literally spend years making these things. Are there? I vaguely remember now having seen YouTube stuff of indie. Presumably, there are indie game fairs and conventions.
Oh yeah, there's like Res and things like that. I mean, there's one coming up in a few weeks' time, I think. I can't, because I can't physically go to them. I can't remember the names. You know? Right. It's like out of sight, out of mind. You know? Yeah.
Okay, well, there's something for people to look into. Okay, me to look into as well. Okay, so number 5, we were talking about Nevermind. Tell me a little bit about Nevermind. Now, I watched some of this, and this looks a really fascinating premise.
Yeah, Nevermind was never really meant to be a horror. It comes across that way. The premise of it is you are a psychiatrist / psychologist. It's difficult to balance the terms depending on what you're doing in the game. Who has the ability to actually enter the mindscape of an afflicted person. So say someone with post-traumatic stress disorder, you can enter their mindscape and discover pieces of the puzzle that has made them like this, to try and help them understand why they're doing this, why they're like this, and possibly soothe them, you know, and fix what's wrong. And it's like, but when you go into this, like the world you go into is twisted by the person's own fears and delusions of what's happening around them. So, for example, there was a guy who was in the army, and he had post-traumatic stress disorder. So you go into his mind, but because of everything that's twisted and skewed in his mind, there's so many puzzle pieces, but only 5 of them will reveal what really happened. So he's got people shouting at him in the street, calling him trash, things like that. People looking down at him. There's signs everywhere saying things like, "You don't belong here. You don't belong in a civilized society." And then there's drug dens and things like that where he takes a pill, but is it really a drug den or is he at a doctor's? So, you've got to solve these issues. This is what their heads are like, and you've got to try and figure out what's right and what isn't.
Right. This sounds absolutely fascinating.
Mm.
How many different patients are
Well,
there?
so far, I think there's 8 different patients, but they're continually adding new ones, and they've actually brought out some new technology to go with the game. You can play the game with a heart rate monitor attached to you, which registers the amount of fear you feel or the amount of excitement, and encompasses it into the game and changes the reality based on what you feel.
Okay, I'm just trying to get my head around this now. So this is basically plugged into your computer. It's monitoring your heart rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you get a fright and your heart starts beating faster, it will increase the scares to the point where you don't feel the fear anymore. So therefore helping you to deal with your own fear.
Oh, wow. This is neuro-linguistic programming. Yes. Yeah. Feedback loops.
They've actually brought out another new innovation on it that uses your webcam it draws a map of your face and gauges the reactions of your face, your eye movements, twitches, things like that, also to base into what happens in the game. You get a fright, sometimes your heart would beat faster, but you might go like that, and it will pick that up and encompass it into the game as well. If you're completely emotionless, it will try harder to give you an emotional response.
Yes, mind is now officially blown.
Bear with me. Where did I put Nevermind? I'm just going to check and see how much Nevermind actually is, because it's just like all this stuff that's that you get with it. And
whilst you're looking it up, I'm just going to ask you another question. Jeff Davis, I think Jeff Davis has said, do you agree that indie developers have a much greater freedom to create their own idea without being forced into ideas by their publishers? Do you think that, I'm guessing you agree that this is the real perspective, is that indie gamers can just do their own thing because this is going to be a passion project for them?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing indie developers are limited by is their ability to create. They're not limited by their imagination. They're not limited by, outside forces other than their own creative input. It's not like when you make a movie where it's like, okay, I really want to do this, but this would be physically impossible.
Right.
What you can't do in a movie, you can do in a game. And same as cartoons, I guess, as well. Animations, you can do pretty much anything in them, but you're limited by the audience. Whereas with a game, you've also got the sort of the audience is also taking part in shaping the world as they play.
Yes, it's just sounding very, very bizarre and very frightening. They really have now found a way to control us, and all those dystopian visions of the future. And that all our children are basically going to be stuck in front of games, because this is where they're only going to get the dose of reality through the screen.
Well, possibly, but then they've got the Vive thing coming out, which makes them actually have to move around and walk about. So
I can't see them running and exercising, though.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there is a device out there that actually attaches you into it, and you can actually run on the spot. You can run in any direction. It'll just do it. I don't know how it works, so it looks bizarre. It looks like a big metal bowl.
See, all I am now channeling is Keanu Reeves, waking up and discovering that really the machines have taken over the world, and his entire sense of reality as a lie done by and he is living inside the Matrix. And this seems to be getting closer and closer. But
you've got to remember, he wasn't in control.
This is true. Oh yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I kind of really enjoyed the first movie. The other two is like, what are you doing? I
You know,
do not understand. It's
they kind of ran out of ideas after the first one. They thought, again, we need to make a sequel. It was a Five Nights at Freddy's thing. It was like, oh my
yeah,
god, that's made money. Let's make more of them.
yeah, and just lots of
That's it.
action and cool effects, but no real, emotion. Um, okay, so I'm gonna move on to we're actually already three-quarters of our way through our time. Dead Space.
Oh, Dead Space now. Dead Space is a game that took me by surprise. I didn't play it for the first year it was out because I thought it was just another space game.
Mm,
I wasn't really into that sort of genre because I thought, you're just flying a ship through space kind of thing. And then someone said, have you actually played it? And I says, no. And he was like, give it a try. And the first thing that I heard was this really spooky voice singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And images of monsters coming up, but they weren't really monsters. It was like I recognized bits of those things. It was like the first time I watched Hellraiser, there are monsters, but there's something human about them.
right.
But, Dead Space, I mean, you could say Dead Space was based off of the whole sort of Hellraiser thing. It was like there's an item that creates creatures out of the dead. They're called necromorphs.
Okay.
Right. So it's this alien sort of virus thing that basically it wants you dead, not because it's got anything against you, but because that's its way of creating parts of itself. So the necromorphs are basically twisted versions of humanity. They rip apart the person that they've infected, and each part of the person is recombined into weapons, things to help it survive. I mean, lungs might not be used to take in air, but they might be used to store acid instead. Things like that. And you are one guy, an engineer, who literally went to find his girlfriend and get caught up in this whole conspiracy, where you have nothing but a plasma tool, a plasma cutter, which you have to use to dismember because they don't die unless you dismember them completely. And the entire game, but the thing is, I'm saying this and you're thinking, oh my God, that sounds horrible, but then we've got the story behind it as well of, you are this person, you are this Isaac Clarke, you are stuck in this place not knowing what the hell is going on. Why are these things after me? What did I do? Where's my girlfriend? Oh, why is our eyes glowing now? Kind of thing, So, but each iteration of the game sort of extends that story. So each time, it doesn't just suddenly turn into a superhero kind of thing. It's like each game gives him a little bit more experience of what's going on, but then it throws an entirely new breed of monster at him, where he doesn't know what he's actually meant to be doing until it culminates into the entire planet as that monster. It's like all the dead have joined together and became a sort of, I can't think of the word, is that amalgamation? I can't remember. Basically, all the dead join together to form a planet, which then moves on and sets the whole thing off in motion on another planet again. So that's how these creatures breed. They kill an entire planet to form a new version of themselves, move on and do the same thing again. So basically, one thing I have noticed about the monsters in a lot of games is they're not actually evil. They are just out to survive.
There's a reason behind. They're not just
there's always
mindless killing machines. There is actually a backstory to them. Which is something that Pablo Absento mentioned when she was talking about monsters as well the other week when I was interviewing her. The importance of actually having some sort of strong backstory. I'm going to move this on because we've only got about 10 minutes left, and I want to talk about your last three choices. We've kind of talked about Outlast, which is at the top, so concentrate on Amnesia. Now, Paddy Murphy says, when you get to Amnesia, do you prefer the original or a machine for pigs? I personally prefer a machine for pigs. But which one do you prefer?
Well, it really depends. They both had their own charms. They were developed by different companies. They were same universe, but different companies created them. The original Amnesia was developed by the same people who made SOMA. The game was basically you had lost your memory by drinking a potion of your own devising, but you don't really know that or Did you? Kind of thing. It's like the entire game is like, did I do this or didn't I do this? Are these creatures that are after me real, or did I make them, or what's going on? Because the entire game is like, it's like you could be in your own castle and not know anything of what's happening, and the snippets of memories come to you, and are they your memories or are they someone else's? The game is very confusing. But what drew me to that game was the amount of, downloadable content, we call it. People were able to actually create their own levels,
right,
and add them to the game, giving it a lot of longevity, create their own stories. And, the developers left the game open to anyone who wanted to make a story with it. They would provide the tools, and you could add to the game, kind of thing. So
that sounds absolutely fascinating. So it really is.
But the whole Amnesia tale is one of these games you have to play to know really what's going on.
Well, it's interesting because I, as I say, I watched some of your videos earlier on about something, and I looked at the Amnesia run, and my only note is no idea what this was about.
Yeah.
It's just like, what?
I think it was the Machine for Pigs one I had. I mean, it's like, it was set in industrial sort of revolution kind of thing, and the Machine for Pigs, I mean, is like what constitutes as a pig. It's like, I can hear the squeals at night of the pigs, and then there's another voice that says, well, that all depends on what you refer to as a pig. And then you hear someone else shouting, help, and then the squeals start again. So there is a machine in the basement that is actually designed to take the blood of whatever they put in it, and it powers this machine that can tell them the future and things like that. So
right. Another question from Paddy is, BioShock isn't on this list. Is that because you don't like it, or you don't consider it a horror game?
I don't really consider it a horror. I consider it more of a sci-fi thriller.
Right.
There's elements of horror in it. There's a bit of body horror in it because you have to inject yourself with all these different chemicals which change your DNA and allows you to have superpowers and things like that. But I don't count it as much a horror as I would of just a sort of a sci-fi thriller.
Right.
Set underwater, of course, but it's the elements of the game. It's more of an action game,
right,
than anything else. I mean, Dead Space could be called that as well, but they've got it's so hard to describe. It's like what makes a horror game, and what makes other games that are meant to be horror not horror. I think literally it's just the stories involved. BioShock is all, it's all about mind control and things like that, and if, for example, if you said, who was it that asked the question? Sorry,
Paddy Murphy.
If you said to Paddy Murphy, would you kindly make me a cup of tea? After playing BioShock, he would know exactly what you meant, and he would instantly go and make you a cup of tea and walk till his feet bled to deliver it to you.
That's horrible. Mm-hmm. I don't want you to make me a cup of tea.
Not in the real world, but he would understand it in terms of the game. So there's horrible and there's horror, I would say.
Right. Yeah, yes. Okay, so we're now on to your last two, which we'll start with SOMA. This just weird.
SOMA was wonderful to me. It's just, like you said, it's weird. It was such a wonderful game. It was so metaphysical. It made you question everything. It's like
you started, because I watched some of the early footage of it and so on, and I thought, oh, okay, it's all about. Hold on, how on earth did we get over here? Because we started right here.
Yeah.
So inevitably, you're going to get spoilers here. Funnily enough, I looked this up on iTunes and so on, and they give away the entire game because you just think, oh, okay, this guy's got a problem. He's got really, really bad headaches. He's had an accident, and now he's going into a really, really dodgy doctor's practice to get some treatment for his headaches and brain scan. So it's very strange.
Yeah, I mean, the start of the game is just like, it's like there was a car crash, and you think this is just going to be one of those things. It's going to be a bit of a sci-fi thing. They're plugging them into a computer. You're going to see some images and stuff that's probably just going to be a dream or something like that. But they plug them into the scanner. The scanner happens, and you wake up and you're in a completely different place. And he doesn't know what's going on, but everything seems fine about himself, and for some reason there's this black goo Where's this black goo come from? Why are the robots trying to kill me now? Are they robots? They sound human, you know? It's just like, again, it's a sense of isolation and the terror of the unknown. You know, it's like everything about that game has you questioning what the hell is going on. And every time it comes out with an answer that is actually a satisfying conclusion to the question, it brings up another 100 questions of, but hang on, wait a minute, why would that happen? You know? And if you want to, I mean, I don't really know how much into the game I should get, because there is a massive spoiler about half an hour into it.
Yes, this is right. Well, it seems to be given away on iTunes anyway, which you just go and you'll see all the images and you think, okay, so you just wipe out the first half hour of the game, because that's but when I was watching it, having not looked on iTunes, and I thought, oh, this is really quite interesting. Why the hell? Oh no! Oh wow! Oh, this is strange. Oh, this is really. As everyone knows, I'm not a fan of spoilers at all, but yeah, interesting game. It looks very interesting game. And just because we got less than 5 minutes to go now, Outlast, we talked about Outlast. So talk me a little bit. So why does Outlast make, because we've talked about some really interesting games here, in my view. I'm actually intrigued. I think I might actually look at The Park and Nevermind, look the most interesting from, and possibly Slender. Not sure about that. It's certainly not Five Nights at Freddy's.
No,
I'm not going to worry about that.
No. Outlast, first off, is the only game that has made me shut up during an entire section of a scene.
Wow.
It's been the only game where I've actually sat going like that, shaking my head, going, why? No. And I couldn't vocalize it. I was saying stuff in my head. I thought I was talking until someone said, you went quiet for about 5 minutes. I was like, no, I talked the entire time. You put your hand over your mouth and shook your head. I didn't even realize it. Like in my head, I was screaming at the characters. But anyway, going into when the game first came out, it was a shock, because it was all these ex-AAA company people who had been either sacked or left the companies because they had disagreements with the decisions, had decided to form their own group called the Red Barrels, which is in itself is a joke, because a red barrel in the game is something that explodes and has no point other than to kill things. And they decided, with all of our experience, we could get together and we could make something. And they decided to make Outlast. And when Outlast came out, it was my birthday, and I got it bought for me. And I thought, do you know what? This looks interesting. I'm just going to play this. And it seemed quite generic to begin with. First person thing, going to explore a haunted house, turn around, I'm not going in that house, ha ha ha. Then we go inside, and it's like, no, hang on, this is an asylum. Oh, what the hell is going on now? There's all these different things, and why is there dead bodies, and what happened in here? I mean, these are the questions you ask yourself to begin with until the game really starts. And you meet the priest, who says you are there to witness everything. You won't be harmed as long as you do what you're meant to do. But he never tells you what you're meant to do. So I spent 90% of my time hiding in a locker from a large man called Christopher Walker.
Right.
Yeah. But the game itself is it's easier to show than it is to explain these games. That's the thing. I mean, it's like when you go to see a movie and you come back and you say, "Oh my God, there was this bit with this bit," and then there was like, and you get folk nodding their heads, going, "Yeah, sounds great." And then it's like, have you seen the movie yet? And they're like, "Oh my God, I know exactly what you were talking about now." Yeah, that bit, and you're like, "Yeah." You know, but Outlast was a game that actually gives you a sense of isolation in a crowded room. You are the outsider in this asylum where these horrible experiments have happened. And you are there to record everything. You've got your little video camera with you in your notebook, and you're there basically to take down details of everything that's went wrong so you can sell it onto the press and let the world know what's happening in the place to try and save these people. So you're trying to save the people that are trying to actively kill you.
Okay.
You know, that kind of thing.
I'd run away and leave the buggers.
I don't know. It's like think Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where except it's on a massive scale, where you're in the house and yes, they're chasing you, but you're trying to hold their hand and lead them out at the same time. It's like
Wow, that sounds really interesting. We've got a question here from Jeff Davis. Derek, was that scene that made you go quiet the Whistleblower DLC?
Yes, it was. There's the only episode of any game where I've actually had to put a not safe for work warning on it.
Oh.
It involves castration.
Oh no! Don't say.
In various methods.
Don't say. No. Right. Definitely not watch. Definitely not playing that now.
A rather well-spoken man who refers to himself as a groom, and the first thing he ever says to you is "darling." He thinks you're beautiful and everything. You know?
Right. So massive spoilers for Cover Outlast.
That's not. No, that was in the trailer. That part, the darling thing. So.
Wow. Okay. Right. Yeah. No. I no. Not even no. Just wrong. Really. Just really wrong.
I think I said that quite a few times when I was playing as well. But the thing is, though, the thought of the games is harder to imagine than it is to play, because when you're playing the games, you've got this sense of I can do this. You know, I'm in this situation. This isn't a random character I'm watching. This is me. I can do this. I know what I'm doing. I would do this in this situation. Oh well, maybe not. No, there goes my head. You know, that's what keeps you going back, is because even though you get killed, you've got that option of going back and doing it again and thinking, well, I did it that way this time, but now I know what I'm doing and I really want to know what happens next in the story. Right. And if I stop playing, I'm never going to know.
Right. You know?
And every person's story is different. Every person who plays these games has a different experience. So you don't just have a linear world where you can go and discuss exactly what happened with another person. They go, oh yeah, I remember that bit. Because you could say, like, I went down that corridor and that guy killed me. What corridor? I went the other way. I still got to the end, you know. So everything in the game world is it might be a linear game, but it has so many different ways you can do things, so many different choices you can make. And again, like I said, you are the hero of every story that you play. So you've got nobody to blame but yourself. You can't shout to the main character and go, I would have done something else, because you are the one doing it. So
very interesting. I think I mean, the closest thing that we had when we were growing up was little paperback books where you made a decision on page 1 that took you to page 19 if you turned left, or page 36.
I still have those books.
Do you? I was trying, who's the author of those books?
Livingston, something like this. Jeff will know. Jeff Davis will know. He'll definitely know.
Yeah. It's just come on so much since then. This is obviously what people were looking at. Derek, this has been absolutely fascinating. This has been a world I really had very little. I mean, the Soska sisters, were telling me about, when I've chatted to them a few times, because they're obviously huge, great gamers, and Jen and Sylvia were telling me about these games that I really should play and so on. And it is absolutely, as I say, I've marked down Nevermind, The Park, and Slender. The others are just going to be, I'm definitely not playing Outlast.
I would say, get some practice in with the other ones before you attempt Outlast. Outlast is more sort of...
No, I'm not going to play it. Just never going to happen.
Well, you never know. Well, you've got this. That's another good thing. I mean, that's why I do YouTube as well, is because there are people out there who might not be able to afford these games, or they don't have the right kind of systems and stuff, but they still want to see them, or they want to just see how someone else would react to them.
Sure.
So that's why that's why I do. I do it to entertain mostly, but it's for the people out there who maybe can't get the games, or they maybe want to see different versions of it, or see someone else who might have a different reaction. So,
It'll be interesting. Okay, we've talked in the past about the idea of me doing something similar to even playing these games and recording my... Yeah, I could just imagine me just sitting here going, or I died again. I just died again.
Yeah, just the title of every video would be Nope.
Yeah.
It's called Nope Network.
Nope, just not playing. I don't like it. I'm gonna run away now. I have to say, you've absolutely sold me on these. They do sound very, very interesting. There's some intriguing ideas in there that do make me kind of think, yeah, I should really check these out and find out more about this.
I mean, if nothing else, it means you've got an entirely new avenue of story sort of telling to go through as well.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, it's fact. Well, no, I was watching, and I was kind of thinking, how would my short story, this kind of a premise. So, what would you? I'm kind of now thinking, gosh, I'd really like to write a video game because there's so many interesting ideas that that you could play around with and so on, and give people it's a different way of storytelling, whereas you're saying, okay, it's going this way, and you control the changes. But actually, no, what if you went down that way? Okay, well, what would happen to you then? It's kind of a tree. It's very interesting. Derek, this has been really, really fascinating. I have learned an awful lot more, considering I knew incredibly little to begin with. That wasn't going to be hard. But it's been absolutely fascinating. Thank you very, very much indeed. So just to remind you, your channel is called Scottish Geeks.
Yeah,
I will put a link on to the YouTube video for this show in about an hour or so, and I'll put up all the links. Do please check out Derek's YouTube channel and subscribe. How many more before you hit 8,000 subscribers?
I think we've got 42 to go.
42 to go. I was looking at it. Yeah, so 42. So if there's 42 viewers and you'd like to help Derek get to 8,000 subscribers, please click on that magic button.
It stops me from playing those horrible games with. Oh, sorry. I feel more terrified playing the games I'm playing just now than I do playing horror, because I sit there going, "Oh, I'm going to get in trouble for this one."
What sort of games are those?
Don't ask. It's called. There's one called Necopara, where you are a young man who's in charge of a cafe filled with girls with cat ears. You're very bouncy.
Those sort of. I've seen.
People ask for these things, and when I've got there's no sort of major games I'm playing, I've got a big list of things. I'm like, okay, this is the one that was most asked for. Let's play that one. What have I got myself into? I can't even be sarcastic doing it because I just spend my time going.
These are Japanese games, I'm guessing. Yeah, I've seen a few videos. It's just like, really, not exactly respectful to women. Yeah, okay. Derek, thank you very much indeed. As I say, please say good night, Derek.
Good night, guys and girls.
Good night. Thank you very much indeed. And thank you very much indeed. This has been Chattering with Nicholas Vince, and I've been chattering with Derek McEwan, aka Scottish Geeks. Next week, I'm going to be chattering with Paddy Murphy, the director of Retribution, Cheesebox, and a whole load of other things, including The Three Don'ts. And I'm really looking forward to that one as well. And then Mike and Anna from Myco the week after. I shall see you guys soon. Good night.